Hi everyone, I'm Will Brown and welcome to the WP Quickies series, bite-sized WordPress tips and tricks in 30 minutes or less. In this lunchtime quickies, I'm going to be talking about creating pop-ups in WordPress. So thanks for joining me on this lovely sunny Sydney afternoon, and welcome to those overseas and those watching on replay. Just a few housekeeping things before we start. Just make sure you hit all the subscribe buttons on the social channels that I'm broadcasting on just now. We have a Facebook group, so you can find that WordPress Sydney meetup on Facebook. Visit wpaustralia.org as well, and you can find out all the meetups that we have across Australia, and you can join our Slack channel as well. Now, if you're a web designer or developer who maintains and looks after your WordPress client websites, have a look at was.com.au. I'm sure there'll be something there for you. And next in-person monthly WordPress Sydney meetup. So this is the evening meetups. It's the last Monday of every month at 6 p.m. at the Microsoft Reactor. That's just next to Wynyard Station in Sydney. The next one I'm going to be talking about WordPress speed hacks. So making your WordPress website go lots faster. Press that big fast, go faster button. So please join me then. That's on June the 27th, 6 p.m. Microsoft Reactor at York Street. Always looking for suggestions for topics for these WP Quickies. I've had quite a good response over the last few weeks. Thanks very much for sending in those topic choices. You'll see I've queued up quite a few topics for the next few weeks, but always looking for more, so please do that. Okay, drop a line, who you are, where you're from, what you do as well. On the comments, we'll see who's online here. We've got Mr. Meowpius. Hello, how are you doing? And we've got Jean from the Central Coast. We've got Alan from Annandale and Joey J from Singapore. Hi, Joey J. How are you doing? Hope everyone is keeping well. It's great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us here. Now, I'm going to dive into this one for Popups. Let's have a look at this one just now. So this subject was recommended by quite a few people who were interested in chat-ups in pop-ups and WordPress. So let's get into this one for today. Now, as a web user, I hate pop-ups. They're distracting, they're annoying, and I just basically want to get the content underneath them. You know, that's the worst thing that happens when a pop-up comes up. You're trying to read a blog post and a pop-up comes up, you're like, out of the way. Especially if they get rid of the cross button, you know, and you can't, you just can't get rid of that pop-up. It's so annoying. Hey, Dave, how you doing, buddy? In the sunny Blue Mountains. That's great. I wish I was there too. Now, so as a web user, I hate pop-ups. As a website owner, and everything that goes with that role, like sales manager, digital marketer, all that sort of stuff, I love them. So they help me boost conversion rates, and ultimately they add to my bottom line revenue. So it's a bit of a love and hate relationship with pop-ups. As a web user, I hate them, but as a website owner, I kind of need them because they work. So let me know if you love or hate pop-ups. Let me know in the comments. Okay, so let's just wind it back a little bit. For those that are maybe newbies, let's just talk about what pop-ups are and kind of how they work. So pop-ups, they're basically the form of online advertising on the internet. Now, a pop-up is a GUI, a graphical user interface, usually displayed in a small window that suddenly appears from nowhere in the foreground of the web page that you are viewing. Now, pop-ups tend to draw attention away from the main content onto maybe something like an extended value proposition, so like a deal, for example. Now, this extended value prop could either be like a discount on prices. It could be a lead magnet, and that's something that you're going to give to someone else in exchange for the email address and the name, going to give value. Or it could simply be an upsell for those. Now, Eric Zuckerman, he is considered to be the inventor of the pop-up, creating it for an advert-driven website around about 1996, somewhere thereabouts. Not an exact date on when he created it, but he was working for a company between 1994 and 1996, and it was all ad-driven revenue, and he decided to to invent this little pop-up thing, you know, because the inline adverts, inline banners, they just weren't working for him, so he wanted something a little bit extra. And there's also a little bit of a background as to the circumstances around about why he went with the pop-up. I'm going to let you read them for yourself on Wikipedia, and you'll probably realize why I don't want to expand on it here. There's a few keywords I really wouldn't want to have associated with that. So read that Wikipedia entry. It's quite funny about, you know, the circumstances why he created these pop-ups and what was happening. So those are what pop-ups are. The science behind pop-ups. So There's three underlying principles at play when considering why pop-ups are so effective. Now, the first one is what I call decision complexity. Now, our brains and emotions can quickly become overwhelmed when we're presented with lots of complicated decisions, lots of complicated choices. Now, when browsing, say, for example, an e-commerce store, you may be presented with tons of different variants or product options all over the place. And knowing exactly which one you want to purchase, that can kind of be stressful for some people, So a pop-up process simplifies this whole process by offering an easy to understand single value offer. It's a simple single decision for a visitor to make. So it gets rid of all the decision complexity and just presents the user with one option, basically. And that's one of the reasons why they are so effective. One of the other reasons I call habitual routines. Now, as humans, we're habitual beasts and we're creatures of habit, and that extends to our web browsing activity as well. Now, how many times have you sat down in front of your computer to accomplish one simple task and suddenly find that 20 minutes later you've passed that process and you've basically been browsing autopilot and you're somewhere else, And it's happened to me lots of times, I'm sure it's happened to you as well. So pop-ups, they can disrupt this pattern of behaviors. If you're sitting there, if you're browsing, you're looking through stuff, you're clicking links, suddenly a pop-up comes on the screen. That's what we call a disruptive behavior. So it disrupts that pattern of behavior that you're kind of habitually doing, you're in routine. And it creates a moment of change that may help, and it usually does, may help re-engage the visitor's focus on that particular website. So habitual routines and pop-ups, they're kind of a pattern disruption device. The third reason why they work is something called trust reinforcement. Now, psychologists tell us that the more times we see a message, the more likely we are to start believing that it is true. And now, this is the same principle when watching TV adverts or hearing a jingle on the radio, for example. Eventually, after time and given the correct circumstances, the message could prompt you to take action. Now, one of my most annoying / favorite, and this again goes to the love-hate relationship, radio jingles is the Sushi Hub one at the moment. Every time it comes on in the car when I'm doing the school run, a little boy in the back, we're both singing it, but it just sticks in your brain and goes on and goes on. Saying that, we were at a new shopping center last weekend and we're just going around the food court and we're scanning through things, and my boy and me, we suddenly point to Sushi Hub. Oh, there's Sushi Hub, and we start singing the jingle, do 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 do, and and this is all how effective this kind of trust reinforcement is. You hear all the time in the background, it's catchy, and then given the particular circumstance, we were in the food court, we suddenly see this and their eyes are drawn to it. And the same thing happens with these pop-ups. Now, yes, they can be annoying, and they pop up all the same time, this message. It might not be relevant to you 99% of the time, but there might be this one time in your circumstances change, the pop-up comes up, and that information, you've seen it before, you've seen it lots of times, you think, okay, now is the time to do this, and click. So those are my three reasons, the three science reasons behind pop-ups. Decision complexity, it gets rid of that. Habitual routines, it breaks that pattern. And trust reinforcement, the number of times you keep seeing it, builds up that trust and authority to link in with that particular situation. Okay, so now you know what a pop-up is and a little bit of the science behind why they work. I should probably talk about how to create them, seeing as this is basically what the main talk is about. So there are many choices to get started with pop-ups for WordPress. And I'm going to run you through my top 3 pop-up systems that I use with WordPress. Okay, so the first one is Pop-up Maker. Now, I love this free plugin, and so do 700,000 other users. That's how many are actively installed in the WordPress repository. Excuse me for a drink of tea. Now, this is the first pop-up plugin that I ever came across that I found was really good. It was consistent. It was regularly updated. I've used lots in the past, and it's really annoying when you get into something and it suddenly just becomes not supported anymore. But this pop-up maker plugin, it's been around for a long time. It's got a good user base. It's got really great reviews, and it's actively updated and maintained all the time. So it's trusted for that. So I've got this on quite a few client websites at the moment. You can trigger pop-ups in multiple ways. So you can open them automatically, and there's an option to have a delay as well. So if you land on a page, and you can have a delay for maybe 30 seconds before you send the pop-up up. Obviously, you can click on a button or any other element to open up. You can send a pop-up open after a form has been submitted. So the pop-up comes up when the form has been submitted. And this is really, really good for kind of cross-sells and upsells as well. So if someone's purchased something, excuse me, then you can throw a pop-up to say, you've purchased this, or there's an extra offer, limited time offer, to purchase this other thing. So this is a really, really useful when doing those types of conversions. You can open it when someone's about to leave your site, and that's called exit intent. So when you start to move the cursor up to the top to either close a tab or up there, the pop-up software kind of senses that you're maybe leaving the website, and it then throws up a pop-up for that. So that's a premium feature. And another premium feature for within this is if someone scroll down your page to a particular element, and so that's called a scroll trigger. And those are very common. You'll find those types of features pretty much across all pop-up plugins and makers and systems for those. Those two that I mentioned last, the exit intent and the scroll triggers, they're actually really, really useful. One of the more annoying things about pop-ups is, when you're browsing maybe blog content and it throws it up straight away. So you even get a chance to read the title or the first opening paragraph. That is really, really annoying, and that can actually damage your conversion rates. It's much better to put a delay to let the people actually peruse the content, but it's even better to throw a pop-up in the right relevant part of that content. So if you've got a blog post and you're talking about the ins and outs of blue widgets, and suddenly you got sale on blue widgets, at that particular point, you can then throw up the pop-up to say, we've got the sale on it. And it makes more sense because it's more relatable to the actual part of the content that the reader is viewing, rather than just throw it up straight away. Okay, so this pop-up maker, it integrates with all the top plugins, form plugins like Gravity Forms, Ninja Forms, all that sort of stuff. So you can embed those forms within the pop-up maker. And it also integrates with some of the top CRMs and email marketing systems as well, like Drip, like ActiveCampaign, like MailChimp, all that. So you can easily add your opt-in data through to those systems directly from Pop-Up Maker, which is really, really good. Now, some features and integrations are kind of reserved for premium, so those two, the exit intent and the scroll. But the free version has huge support and is just what you need for an easy-to-use, simple pop-up system. If this is the first time you're trying to do pop-ups within WordPress, this is an excellent way to start. Now, the plugin comes with its own pop-up editor, allowing you to customize the size of the pop-ups, the content, and delivery, all within a familiar WordPress editor environment. So I'm just going to move myself in there so you can see it a little bit bigger. You can also choose from over, I think, about 60 theme templates. If your creative juices are running a little bit dry, then they give you 60 templates to kind of start from, rather than just start from scratch. So really, really good and excellent choice for free if you don't want to pay for something, and also if you're a real beginner, just to kind of get into using pop-ups and how they actually use and all your conversion rates. Okay, so the next one, I'll just hide myself there, is Elementor Pro. So I love using Elementor Pro on sites where I know the client will be building sales and landing pages. Now, if you have similar clients, they will inevitably ask you how to create pop-ups so that they can increase the value offer and increase their conversions for those. Now, Elementor Pro has an entire pop-up system built into the product. Now, the value of using pop-ups within Elementor is the integration of the page builder designer and all the other elements and widgets that it has to offer, but especially their forms. So being integrated, having the pop-up design integrated into the main editor, it basically eases the training, and it's a familiar environment for building the pop-ups, and it's the same one that clients been using to design posts and pages and templates and all that sort of stuff. So it reduces the training. It's really easy to use because the client already knows, how to do all this stuff, and you can design it really, really quickly and really, really easily. So I like the fact it's all integrated, it's all packaged together. Same interface, same options, same widgets, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so as with all Elementor pages, you can choose where the pop-ups will be displayed on your website. So they can be on a specific page or post. It can be across the entire site, or singular or archives or product pages as well. So you've got a really good choice about the conditions about where this pop-up is going to be embedded into. You can also control the pop-up triggers. So they can be like on page load, on scroll, on element scroll, on click, or inactivity, or page exit intent as well. So you've got a whole bunch of triggers for there. So the conditions is where the pop-up sits in, which pages it sits on, and the triggers are when it pops up. And you can mix and match these. So you don't just have to have one of them. You can mix and match. You can have all of them if you like. For those. So it's your choice as to how and when you actually pop this up. So it's really good. So on scroll to element, it's what I was talking about before. So if you've got a particular part in your content that's talking about something that you want your pop-up to come up when the person reads that, that's the on scroll to element for those. Okay, the last thing Elementor has is advanced rules. So some of these options for your Elementor Pro pop-ups, they include things like showing after the number of page views, show up X number of sessions. That's when they've logged in for that. You can do show after, show up to a maximum of X times as well. So if you don't want to annoy somebody, you can say, okay, I'll show it 5 times, and then after that, that's fine. That's it done. But you can do things like you can show it. You can show the pop-up when you're arriving on a specific URL. So this could be useful if you want this. If it's a general pop-up, you want to have it across the entire site, but you only want to trigger it for particular people that are coming in, maybe some URL parameters, and you want to trigger this pop-up just to show it to them. So again, lots of different advanced rules for those. There's also device rules as well. So you can show it on desktop, tablet, or mobile, or one or all 3 of those. And you can also specify to particular browsers as well, which I really, really like, because not all browsers render pop-ups in exactly the same way. So if you know that Safari is rendering a kind of particular pop-up a different way, then you can maybe just specifically create just one for Safari browsers and pop that one up there. So lots of choices for you to kind of mix and match devices and systems, and when you want this thing to pop up as well. So Elementor Pro, really, really good. So if you've already got an Elementor Pro, if you're already an Elementor Pro user, then there's no need to look anywhere else, because it's got this full-blown pop-up system with all the conditions, all the triggers, and advanced rules as well. Okay, last one. I've been using this one. It's called Optinly on my willbrown.com website for a few months now, maybe 2 or 3 months. I scored a lifetime deal with this. I think it was through AppSumo, or it could have been somewhere else. Anyway, I've got a lifetime deal for this, so I've been using it to try and get my money's worth. Optinly is a service. It's a SaaS service, software as a service. So it's not a WordPress plugin. They do offer a WordPress plugin, but it's not really needed. It's more of a kind of a help guide, really. But everything kind of main is done within this the service dashboard. So all you need is a bit of JavaScript that they give you when you sign up in your site header or your site footer as well. It doesn't really matter which one. And once you've got that embedded within your site, you are good to go with using the Optinly service. So let's have a quick look at what it is. Now, the pop-up design, the control, and all the reports and stuff are all through the Optinly dashboard area, and it's kind of using what they call campaigns. So if you're used to using an email marketing service, if you're used to using a CRM, then you'll kind of know what a campaign is. So that's the way they kind of create the pop-up. So it's through a campaign-based environment. Now, you can choose different types of pop-ups, from exit intent, floating sidebars, there's gamification pop-ups as well. You have the simple notification pop-ups, there's overlays, and also time-based pop-ups as well. So you've got a fair choice about the different types of pop-ups that you can throw up to your visitors. Now, there are quite a few targeting rules, including things like URL. So in this example here, I'm throwing up this pop-up when the URL contains willbrown.com/blog. So that covers the blog archives. It also covers any blog posts as well. So this is like a general pop-up that I'm throwing up to everyone based on URL. But they also have things like page views, sessions, cookie, what's country you're in, which is really great, or a time zone. So you can actually do time zone specific pop-ups, which is great, or a refer. And what a refer means is where you've come from. So if you're browsing through from somewhere to, for example, my website, if it's coming from, let's just pick some Facebook, for example, I could throw a pop, say, hey, thanks for clicking on my Facebook ad, and it gives that relevance, it gives that context for that. So really, really good targeting rules for those. Here's the final Optinly pop-up for this campaign running on my website, willbrown.com/blog. As Optinly is an independently from your WordPress website as it runs as a software as a service. There's no code, there's no resources being loaded to slow down your website other than a few lines of JavaScript. So I'm really enjoying this service just now, and I might do a little bit more detail on this, maybe in a blog post on my willbrown.com website, because it's really, really good. I'm really, really enjoying this service at the moment. Okay, so that's my quick introduction to pop-ups, covering their history, a little bit of the science and psychology, and 3 ways that you can include them in your WordPress website. So let me know if you're using any other pop-up plugins or services in the comments. I'm kind of keen to see what everyone else is using. You can throw those in the comments, or you can email me. I'd love to know exactly what pop-up systems you're out there, or let me know if you just hate pop-ups so much that you're just adamant you're never going to use them, even in a business context. Now, guys, if you have any questions, you can throw them at me in the comments, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. And during that, I'll just put this one up. If you want to contact with me and connect with me, I am usually on LinkedIn mostly these days under Will Brown EU, on Instagram a little bit, and sometimes on Twitter, and those are my handles down there. But do visit my new website, willbrown.com. Trying to build up that audience. It's a kind of new thing for me. Kind of do personal branding, looking to maybe spin up a few online courses as well, and more kind of moving into the consultancy, and for that consultancy and coaching. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the comments, and that is super. So I am going to flip over to here and just say that next week on WP Quickies, I am going to be looking at e-commerce websites and compliance. And again, as well as pop-ups, this topic here has been suggested probably by about 10 people, 10, 12 people. So it's kind of high on the list for that. So if you have an e-commerce website, I am going to be looking at what sort of compliance rules that you need to follow to be able to legally trade. Well, I've got one question here before we go. John says, can you show some pop-up examples right now? I've not got anything on just now. Sorry, John, I've not got any websites that I can flick into at the moment. But you can visit willbrown.com/blog, and the opt-in pop-up will pop up for you, hopefully. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for spending your lunchtime with me. Looking forward to seeing you next week and talking about e-commerce and compliance. So I'll speak to you then. Bye.